before we started, I was just like reviewing the New York City ballot again, just to refresh my memory. And it really is absurd when you think about it, right? Lander was just recently arrested for interfering with an ICE arrest. If you guys remember that, he was running for mayor. I think he came in third place. Eric Adams obviously is a clown. Andrew Cuomo, a disgrace. What he did with COVID, no cash bail, and everything else that man has done with sexual harassment and everything else, a disgrace. This guy Mamdani, who is a communist. And then you even had Anthony Weiner, like back on the scene running for city council in New York City, right? It's a joke. I just want to jump back to one thing real quick, Gene.
Hold on, because we do have another one of our special guests coming in, pal. Far be it from me to cut you off. I'm gonna let you finish, but we got to bring in our next guest.
So I want to thank you all for being here. And now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Our good friend joining us from a secluded location somewhere in the People's Republic of New York, Obi Murray. Obi, how you doing, pal? Great to hear from you.
Gene, do I know you and this guy Russ? Who are you guys?
I mean, you used to know us in another life before we moved on from the People's Republic of New York City. But yeah, man.
You mean bigger and better things, right?
God willing.
Well, Russ upgraded when he got married. We know that.
Oh, totally.
Don't tell her.
So listen, I interrupted Ross because clearly you're smarter and much more handsome and all that stuff.
Well, so you guys are all better looking than me, but yeah.
Stop it. We had a long discussion earlier today about impressions from this race, and I just want you to give the audience your elevated speech hot take of this race.
I'm happy to do that. I don't recall what I said to you, so I'll have to think about it. But Russ, continue on. I want to follow up what you guys are doing. I don't want to jump in like that since I'm late.
Oh, who's running the show here? Go ahead, Russ.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch back on some speculation as to why blacks and Hispanics might have leaned Cuomo a little bit. Number one, he's Italian, right? And the Italians, the blacks and Hispanics kind of get along, despite what you see on TV. And for the most part, they're not radical leftists that have an affinity towards communism, like really white liberals in the Democratic Party and people that are freshly here from other countries. Maybe that would describe some of the Asians and some of the other demographics there. And blacks and Hispanics also live in very high crime areas. They're not big fans of defund the police. Now, they may not have known that Andrew Cuomo was the one who actually signed no cash bail into law, but Mamdani is running around saying he literally wants to disband the NYPD. So I don't think that the people that live in those neighborhoods are cool with that.
Amanda, what did you see in Ozone Park last night?
Ozone Park, I saw breaking for Mamdani, and I can't explain it.
I don't know. You're 100% right. Explaining it's going to be interesting. It means a lot for the general. The Latino voters and historically the Asian voters were always more conservative Democrats. When I was doing Michelle Caruso-Cabrera's race for Congress in the Democratic primary against AOC, she knocked on someone's door whose last name was either Caruso or Cabrera. I forget which one. And they were a Democratic household with 5 Democratic votes. They slammed the door on her face. They didn't want to talk to any more Democrats. They were done with the party. And that was 2020. And that was a house with the same name as she did. I think it was a Latino household. And so Latinos are much more conservative than you would think. They also vote late, which maybe the heat had something to do with their lack of turnout. But the other thing about that area is with all the Asian vote, it wasn't just Asian, and it's not a monolithic group. Across the Asian community, he got support there. That was the amazing thing, too. It was Bangladeshi, it was Southeast Asian, it was, Chinese, it was everybody. And that to me is a very striking thing because that was Curtis Sliwa's vote in the last election. So that's part of it. Latinos vote late. At one point early in the night when the numbers came in, Cuomo had the Bronx 2-1, not enough turnout up there, but that gap got closed up there as well as the night went on, which tells us in the early voting and the early returns, Cuomo was 2-1 in the Bronx. But as the day went on, or the night went on, and that would have been all votes that were cast yesterday on election day, Cuomo started losing it. And I think when you look at any campaign, and you guys have all worked very close to me, especially Amanda on this stuff. But it's, there are a couple things you need to have in any campaign. The first is money. You need momentum. You need messaging. All of those things go together. And the momentum actually is the last one, because without some of the earlier ones, you don't get it. When we all worked for Bob Turner, momentum was the key. We were down in the polls, then we were even, then a week out we were ahead. Even though it was a progressive poll that showed Mamdani ahead or almost in striking distance a week out, that was jet fuel for him, I think. And it sort of took away the veneer on some of the Cuomo Rose Garden strategy that had already disappeared because the press wasn't friendly. Every reason the press had to go after him, they did. He had no friendlies whatsoever that would help him out. Even at the end, New York Post barely helped him out. And same thing with the New York Times. It was don't vote for Mamdani. It wasn't a pro-Cuomo thing. So all of that just points to Mamdani has the energy right now, but more importantly, everyone can have energy, but he has momentum. And what is going to slow him down now to where, Gene, we're talking about the general. Democrats have 750,000 votes generally in the general, no matter who it is, de Blasio, Adams, and so forth. Adams had 289,000 votes in the first round 4 years ago. Cuomo had more than that yesterday, and so did Mamdani. So that's where Mamdani potentially starts in the general. I don't know that he loses them. And so you have 350,000 votes that peel off. I think this hurts Sliwa now with Cuomo out of the race, because Sliwa's ceiling is probably about 30. The Orthodox vote will go, and a Jewish vote will go with Adams, so he won't get that as a benefit from Trump. I don't see Trump supporting Sliwa in this race. He'll either stay out or go with Adams. So when you take the Senate race I just did for Simcha Felder's vacant seat, in that district, Zeldin got 80%, and President Trump got 77%. That's not going to go to Sliwa. I don't see that happening this time around. So the general right now is Mamdani's to have with momentum until somebody gets in front of that train and stops it.
Right. Now, Ross, I know you had a question for Obi, but before we do that, I just want to put up this comment for Tracey. Tracey is such an incredible role model. I love seeing her on your show. Oh, isn't that sweet?
Oh, thank you.
Ross, you said you let me know you wanted to talk to Obi. Go for it, man.
Obi, good hearing from you again. So question, admittedly, I'm out of the game, out of New York City politics, but I enjoyed watching it on TV the other night. So my question is, why did Andrew Cuomo concede so quickly and drop with ranked choice voting if results are going to be retabulated and results will be posted next week? I'm just curious, why did he drop so quickly?
I think a couple things. Number one, Amanda, are you in New York still, or are you elsewhere in the world?
Still here in the city.
Okay, so you saw it then up close. It was do not rank Cuomo across the board, Working Families Party, DSA, and everybody. So that was always the mantra that, and I said this on CBS with Marsha Kramer 2 months ago, even before Cuomo was in the race. If he goes to 8 rounds, he's got a problem, because that means you're going way down below and you have to wait for the Lander voter. I thought Adrienne Adams was actually going to come in third until she collapsed her campaign. And Lander's votes were going, I think, about 10 or 20% to Cuomo. Adams' votes were going, Adrienne Adams, were going about a third to Adams, a third to Mamdani, and a third to Lander. I'm sorry, Cuomo, Lander, and Mamdani. And if she had 12%, that's only 3% to Cuomo. Therefore, he's going from 37, 38, 41 with her. He doesn't get to 50. And Mamdani, at 905, I think the numbers were 37, 43, and everybody else down below. And then Cuomo dropped down to almost 35, 36 a little bit, went a little bit in reverse. He never got to 37, if I'm not mistaken, as the night went on. I kept watching every 5 minutes. All of that just points to it is mathematically impossible, statistically impossible, I think, for him to get to 51%. What was there, 980 something thousand votes, 990?
993.
Separated by about 70,000 last time I checked.
And there was 940 last year. I thought there was going to be about 1,000,001, which would have been better for Cuomo, possibly. I don't know how many people didn't show up because of the heat or not, but still, he did better than Adams did and still got shellacked. So, Russ, I mean, the answer to the question is he saw the writing on the wall, and at 905, he was at that number. And at 10:55, he was at that number, or when he conceded about, 10:30 or 10:15. And it was shocking. And he didn't really concede. He'll say, "I'll see where it goes." But, we all know election night, when you run the numbers, you see what's coming in and what's not in yet and so forth. You could not point to anywhere in the city that he outperformed. And think that was the thing they saw internally, that any hope they had a week ago was disappearing. On election day, any hope they had with turnout disappeared when the final number was less than 1 million. 25% of the early voters were new voters. That was pretty much 100% Mamdani. And if you take that number and start with that number, that's a 100,000 vote lead. And you can take all those numbers and slice them up any way you want. And to get to 450, what are we talking, 495 to win, Cuomo would have to get 100% of everybody behind him. Yeah, basically.
Exactly right.
Mathematically possible, statistically not.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. So we talked a lot about what happened yesterday. I want to talk about one thing that happened today. This is a clip from Fox and Friends with Eric Adams going out in reaction to what happened. First of all, Eric Adams going on Fox and Friends to get his bandwidth. Not exactly a great choice, in my opinion, considering it's the People's Republic of New York City. But just want to hear what he has to say, because it'll give us the indication of the vectors of attack that he's going to be using in his campaign real quick.
Fund the police. This candidate, Democratic Socialist, he wants to freeze the rent. He wants city-run grocery stores, social workers to replace the police, because that's going to help. He wants $60 billion of debt fund for affordable housing. He wants free buses, no cost for childcare, baby baskets for newborn, and a $30 minimum wage. How can someone vote for this?
He's a snake oil salesman. He will say and do anything to get elected. Think about this for a moment. He wants to raise 1%. He wants to raise tax on 1% of New Yorkers' high-income earners. As the mayor, you don't have the authority to do that. You know who has the authority to do that? An assemblyman, which he is. He wants to do free buses. He could have done it at assemblyman. He doesn't understand the power of government and how you must making sure you improve your economy, raise the standard of living, and this is what we've done in the city. And I'm looking forward to being on the campaign trail. And
so he's looking forward to being on the campaign trail. Obi, you're one of the masters of messaging. You crafted the messaging for the special election back in 2011 for Bob Turner to win the seat from Anthony Weiner. The first time a Republican held that seat in 80 years, and you win races in New York City for both Republicans and Democrats. Grade the messaging of Eric Adams as he takes his first swing out post-primary.
I think it's okay. I think he has to come up with 3 things that are on his message for what he's going to do. He won after COVID because his message on day 1 of that campaign was public safety, and his message on election day was public safety. Andrew Yang's message was, let's get out of COVID and bring the city back. That was already done by election day, and therefore crime was the issue that Eric Adams was able to deliver on. So he has to have 3 things in what he's for. If you take what the Democrats did against President Trump, or try to do, and they've been doing ever since, Orange Man bad doesn't work. Well, socialist bad doesn't work. If the direction of the city, if the opinion of the voters is we're heading the wrong direction, who's going to be the best shepherd to change that? Now, Eric Adams would not have been able to do that in this primary. Between the petitions and yesterday, he didn't have enough time to come out and do it, nor the money. He now has 3 months to get that message across to voters, and to have that be the choice. The problem's going to be, how many more voters is Mamdani going to get above the 750 Democrats that come his way? How many of the original 750 will Adams pull off, which reduces that number, of course, and builds him up? And what's the magic number to win? If Eric Adams can pull off 350, leaves 400, and let's say another 50 or 75 are in there, that's 475. Adams has to turn out another couple 100,000 voters or take them from Republicans without pissing off Democrats. There's many Republicans I've worked with in the city that have gone to places and been supported. Keith Wolford, 125th Street, black candidate, up on 125th Street, talking to candidates, 3 women that were black in their 70s, super nice, love Keith. Hands the palm card, have his support. They ask, what party are you with? This is 2018. He says Republican. They give the card back and say, I can't vote for you. That's how damaged the R brand was. And that's why Eric Adams isn't taking the line right now. And how does he embrace some Republican vote away from that turnout for Curtis historically? And how does he turn out the independents possibly or pull some Democrats? I don't know the 3 messages yet. I don't know what the 3 are, but 3 is what it is. And he's got to go after Amanda. Oppo is key right now. Somebody
Absolutely.
has to find the negatives on Mamdani that move voters. Free grocery stores are actually good. Government subsidized are bad.
Absolutely right. Just real quick, Tracey, I want to focus a second because we were talking earlier today about Curtis Sliwa. Mm-hmm. And since that conversation and seeing that he has had 0 presence in the media today, the day after the primary, I've gone from saying, well, the long shot isn't as long as it used to be, to now saying, you didn't even take advantage of any opportunity today. What are you even in this race for?
I'm disgusted.
What is he even in this race for?
100%. I'm disgusted. Actually, I'm going to take it a step further. I'm disgusted by the New York GOP and I'm disgusted by the New York City GOP because when it became abundantly clear that Mamdani really had a shot, they waited till the day before the primary to mobilize social media influencers to vote for Cuomo. That was the great GOP strategy. That was the great hope. What are we doing here? So I'm going to blame them as much as I'm going to blame Curtis. And Curtis and the GOP better get their act together because it's going to be a long few years with Mamdani at the helm. Either that or Adams and Curtis maybe cut a deal where Adams says, listen, I'll make you my deputy chief of public safety. Because that's where Curtis excels. That's, he's known for that with his guardian angels, right? He's the protector of the city. So unless they create a deal and join forces, I'm afraid that we're going to have Mamdani. They really just, the GOP and Curtis need to get their acts together for real. I'm getting really upset. Today was
Amanda, is this Amanda, can they get their acts together? I don't think they can get their acts together in time for this race.
No.
Obi was talking about 90 days, right?
Well, aside from getting their act together, I'm more concerned about how he plans to finance a run as an independent candidate with 90 days on the clock for him. I mean, we're talking about a massive campaign that he has to run. We are talking about Bloomberg levels of campaign contributions needed here. Can he raise that money?
Well, if Republicans were smart, they would put, and if they think they can win, they put money behind them. But Obi and Ross, I'm going to let you get some questions in here. Is there any amount of money that can rehabilitate Curtis Sliwa in traditionally right-leaning voter populations like the Jewish population to make him a viable candidate at this point? And if not, are people telling him to drop out, do you think?
Is that to me or Russ?
No, it's you, pal.
I think anyone that talks to Curtis and asks Curtis to get out is either not sober or crazy. Because it's a wasted conversation. Curtis has wanted to go against Andrew Cuomo for decades and against Adams for the past 5 years. So I just don't see anything he's going to do and anything that Curtis would do to get out. Why would he give that up at his age?
Well, for the sake of the city and having a Mamdani mayoralty.
Curtis thinks, you can't fault him on this yet. He thinks if he gets about 30 or 35% and does the Zeldin number, that he can win this if the other two split theirs and makes it that tight. I just think if Curtis gets up there, rehabilitating Curtis, putting money behind him isn't the issue. Mamdani's got to be stopped. His momentum has to be slowed down. But the issues that move voters have to be determined. For instance, during COVID, I remember distinctly, I was running the primary against AOC for Michelle Cruz-Cabrera. There was so many underserved communities out there for testing and then for the vaccine and for food and supermarkets. The way to answer that to some extent is to find some cheap city property and put grocery stores in the areas people can walk. So you're not going, imagine right now in this heat, going shopping for your family, getting milk, vegetables, and taking a bus and being outside with any of that food for an hour. What would happen to your food for your family? You lose the money and you wouldn't have food to feed your family. You go to the bodega, you're going to pay how much more for it? You need to take care of people across the city. So the message of taking care of people is a good message. How to do it is not. And he also uses that to screen the other issues. What's going to happen with our cops in the city? Under President Trump, recruitment is up. Under Biden, it was down. Right now, cops in the city are thinking, oh, we love Tish. Even if she's here for Mamdani, what happens if Lander's first deputy mayor? They're going to go outside the city or not. They're going to retire, or they're not going to join our ranks. So those types of things. Who's going to keep the city safer? Under Adams, his first 2 years, he was hamstrung by what Albany did to him. He's hamstrung by the immigration. He tried to work with the Biden administration. He now has an administration he can work with, and Democrats will take shots at him for doing it. What's Kathy Hochul going to do for him? He helped her during her race last time. The National Guard were in the subways last time, at Grand Central and different places across the city. That was unprecedented. She gave cops to the city to protect people in her budget because he didn't have it. And then he got stuck with a bill for housing the immigrants. What?
Yeah. Hey, Ross. I'm sorry, Obi. I just want to go to Ross here because I've never seen him this quiet ever, which means we're having a pretty good conversation. I want to know what you're thinking, pal.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are killing it. So I think the Hochul Zeldin race was real illustrative of the fact that I just don't think Republicans are going to be able to pull it off, even in a 3 or 4 way race in the city, with the number of Republican voters that have fled the city and state of New York since COVID. And when you dovetail that with, a lot of Curtis's comments about Donald Trump over the years, I just don't see any way possible he's going to be able to pull this off. I know he's making the rounds on Hannity's radio show, and he's been on Fox News trying to soften his stance with Donald Trump. But it leads me to this question, Obi. I'm curious what you think about this. So, does it even matter who the mayor is? Because when you talk about the New York City government, the New York City Council has 45 Democrats, 6 Republicans. It's veto-proof. The Iranian parliament has more of an opposition party than the New York City Council. So it doesn't even matter who gets elected mayor at the end of the day there?
What's the real question there, Russ, though?
The question is, let's say Curtis wins. He has 45 Democrats in the city council. What would the difference? What difference would it make? What can he do?
The short answer is, look what Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts with the Democratic legislature. He did it because he led with the backing of the people and the energy and the support. That's the kind of thing he has to do going forward. Anybody, frankly. Adams has to do that because he'll be a different Democrat. Mamdani doesn't have that problem because he'll push them further left and they'll just follow him because they want to be him someday. That's the kind of problem. But again, Romney, I sat with Romney back in, 2008, and he was talking about how he was able to do things as, a Republican in Massachusetts against legislature that had veto-proof margins. So, that kind of stuff can be done and sparingly. Rudy did it. He was able to keep him at bay.
I guess so, but when we start comparing Curtis Sliwa to Mitt Romney and Rudy Giuliani, and especially to the people that would be surrounding Curtis if he were to, by some miracle, be able to get in, and especially in this political climate that is such a zero-sum game, I don't see any compromise coming from any side. If anything, what Ross was trying to say here was that everyone's heels are so deeply dug in that basically nothing would get done anyway if he even gets to that office.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? What's the old adage in the campaign? Here's the way I could say it. You have to win the primary before you get to the general.
Right.
In this scenario, you have to win the race. I was just quoting the president. That's why I did that. You have to win the race.
We are not FCC regulated. You curse as much as you fucking want to.
The colonel in the army told me, when you swear as an officer, it just shows you aren't educated enough to pick other words.
Got that, Galloway? You hear that?
Cool.
What
Okay,
rank are you now, Russ?
Oh,
Russ?
I retired last year as a command sergeant major.
Awesome. That's amazing. God bless.
yes.
You know the difference between you and a second lieutenant, right?
What is the difference between him and a second lieutenant?
He got promoted. The second lieutenant didn't.
There you go.
Again?
He said the difference between you and a second lieutenant is that you got promoted and the second lieutenant didn't. All right,
Well,
you know what?
I don't want to go
wasted
too
on
deep
him,
into the military, but a sergeant major is an E9, and I got promoted 11
Yeah.
times. So that might tell
There
you.
you go.
I went backwards a few times.
So
There you go.
But Russ, you need to get elected before you worry about governing.
If you like that clip from our new show, Behind Enemy Lines, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and tune in live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.